Okay, we're here on the internet, and here's a question for you, Donna. Is there any reason that Supreme Court justices should be present at the State of the Union, and is it a sign of disrespect if they choose not to be?
Well, Mr. Scalia said that it was silly to show up. Mr. Thomas, I'm sure that...
But that's bipartisan, right? He didn't show up for Bush either.
That's correct. He hasn't shown up for a while. I think in 2009, Clarence Thomas showed up. But over the last couple, over the last couple of years, we've seen maybe 4 or 5 Supreme Court justices, show up at the State of the Union. I don't think it's a sign of disrespect. Maybe
but there's nothing like in the Constitution
to
about it, right? It's just a tradition.
No. It's a tradition.
Totally a tradition. Well, we only, Jefferson stopped giving State of the Union addresses. Washington gave them and Adams gave them. Jefferson hated public speaking. He also thought it was too monarchical, like the King's Address. So we didn't have one from 1801 until 1913, I think.
Wilson.
When Wilson came back.
Yes.
And
Wilson, because he was professor, couldn't help but talk.
It's just...
and there was some controversy a couple years ago where the president criticized the court and Alito said not true.
Right.
Shook his head, so that there was some kind of...
Well, he mouthed it. He did. It wasn't like he stood up like that.
It wasn't
asshole.
Joe Wilson.
Right. But it is funny the way people, I think, if you do something long enough and it becomes a tradition, they think it is written in stone. Same thing with religion, by the way, because I heard lots of people say, well, there's no rule that says a pope can't quit. There's no rule that says there's a pope. Jesus never said anything about popes. Almost everything in the Catholic religion is made up by the people who came after. They made up the whole thing as they went along. The Holy Ghost, all that shit.
Well,
they just made it up as they went along.
Bill, it seems like you have an issue with religion.
That's the...
Yeah.
It just seems like...
I think you might be onto something.
I didn't pick up on that.
Okay. Jamie, how could the GOP better communicate conservatism to younger voters?
Well, I think that there's several ways they can do it. I think there's some issues that the GOP should steal. For instance, one that you might be in favor of, get out front on marijuana decriminalization. I would go as far as legalization.
Mitch McConnell seems to be.
And I think...
But although hemp is not pot, people should realize, I always say, if you think hemp is pot, try to get high on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But is no, but hemp is a biological cousin of pot. It's still illegal because that's how freaked out we are about that horrible drug pot. Right. But that is an amazing step to me. I mean, I was shocked when I saw that.
And I mean, in fair, both parties really haven't addressed this issue in any significant way.
True.
So if the Republicans were bold, which I don't see this happening anytime soon on this issue, but if they were to step out and take that issue, that's means something, I think, to a lot of young voters.
Bring in a lot of voters, new voters.
So, that's one possible out of the box.
Wrong day voters.
That's right. Show up on the wrong day.
Yeah, they'll be
what
voting
about
on
equal
Thursday.
pay for women? I mean, I would be in support of that. The Republican Party.
I don't think the Republican Party is opposed to equal pay for women. They just don't think they probably have to pass legislation. I think you could talk to conservative scholars.
We need legislation to
They have binders of
discrimination.
women.
They have binders, that's right. Remember Mitt Romney?
You could pay them in marijuana and be very progressive.
Mitt wanted to hire women, he just didn't know any. That was why he needed the binders.
But I think a lot of people were saying they wish that President Obama had the binders full of women with his recent cabinet picks in the top State Department and Treasury.
Right.
They're having sex changes, actually. It is very extreme. I don't know why they're doing it.
All right. Wrestling is being removed from the Olympics, Joel. Will you miss it? Why are they?
Yes, this is my issue of the year. I have a big problem with wrestling being removed from the Olympics.
Seriously?
If you take away, I can't believe I'm yelling. I'm really mad about this. It was one of the basic sports of Olympics.
It's where it started.
It is literally two guys were wrestling and someone said, let's judge this. And then it's like, okay, you run as fast as you can, then there's running, and then throw stuff. That was the whole Olympics. And now, literally, wakeboarding might take its place.
What is
I know. Wakeboarding, come on, man.
I've never heard of that.
It's where you kneel on a little surfboard and you get towed by a boat. And if they did it in...
You mean like the wake from a boat? That's where the...
Yeah, just like water skiing, but on a little surfboard.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
No, it's
But, I mean, if I remember my
it's a
history,
Guantanamo thing.
the Olympics began in 776 BC in the city of Elis in Greece. I'm remembering this from Cornell in 1978.
That's a lot of hemp ago.
That's a lot.
Jeez. Back in the Carter years.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this has a lot of history to it. So,
Yes,
I mean,
it seems like
that's-
it should be somehow protected. It's
Right.
kind of, and
Just-
they
but
also
just
got rid of
just
everything.
like the Pope can resign, they can get rid of wrestling.
Were they bribing the Olympic Committee then as well?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a bunch of that I've. said
John,
my
you've
piece.
said James Monroe was the only president who did not preside over a time of deep partisan divide. How did he do this? Really? The only one?
I think so. He
Now let's put him in context. James Monroe served from 1815, right?
18. Let's see, 18.
To 1824.
19.
To 25. Yeah.
25.
Elected in 18, and then
Right.
Vampire.
No, in 16. And then
1816. 1817 to 1825. The Monroe Doctrine, 1823.
Monroe Doctrine.
It's
Monroe
all coming
Doctrine.
back to me tonight.
there you go. It's impressive. It's impressive. He was the second protege of Jefferson's to be president. He had 3. So Jefferson was in for 2 terms. Madison was in for 2 terms. Monroe for 2 terms. Then we had John Quincy Adams, and then Jackson. And
We get it, John. You know everything.
no, sorry. I just working through this.
No, keep working
I haven't
through
been
it.
asked about James Monroe in at least 3 hours.
And then
there
Martin
was
Van Buren. Let's not
that was
forget
a
him.
big a big moment. That was a great
You
era.
guys are making this up.
The
No. I can name all the presidents in order.
This is just like
really?
high school.
Yeah,
for
just.
me.
'Cause I know.
So there was the era of good feelings, and what had
It's going
happened.
to start in about 2 minutes.
What had happened was
I'm in.
I'm in. Hey,
I'm
she's
in.
in.
It's called the era of good feelings?
Yes, I remember
yeah.
that.
Were you?
The era-
Where did you go to high school?
Oh, I didn't go.
He was baptized at the Vatican.
Oh, that's
Yes.
right.
You don't
That's
need
right. That's right.
anything.
No, the Federalists had imploded because they had tried to secede from the Union after Jefferson bought Louisiana. The
Right.
first secession movement was New England, not the South. They wanted to break away because they saw that the country was going to move further south and west, and they were going to be excluded. They wanted to join either Nova Scotia or Britain again.
They didn't like it that he bought Louisiana. They were like, honey, take that back.
Exactly. They thought they were going to be outnumbered, and they didn't like their chances. And that was instantly, actually. Timothy Pickering started drafting articles of secession. And so they had imploded, and the War of 1812 had been a victory, so the Madison-Jefferson forces got credit for that. And so there was kind of no coherent opposition to what Monroe represented at that point. It's not a hell of a lot different than where we are in a way now, where both political forces essentially share the same establishment kind of ideology. There are differences, obviously, but it's really an establishment party with 2 wings.
Is this on the test?
It's going to be. There's a.
Thank you very much. We got to go. Okay.
Real Time with Bill Maher, Friday night at 10. Ask Bill and his guests your questions right after the show at HBO.com.